After e4, c6, knight c3, d5, knight f3, and knight f6, we're playing against the Caro-Kann with the two knights, and in this variation, knight f6 is immediately met with e5. Now we've seen something similar in one of the previous videos. We're going to go through something we haven't seen yet. After the move knight to d7, d4, in the previous occasion we went through e6 and the crazy variation that happens after knight to g5 straight away. Now we're going to go through c5. Our opponent wants to undermine the control of the center in a typical French type of move. Obviously you don't want to take, and you neither want to take in d5. There's absolutely nothing wrong about taking in d5 with the knight, but the strongest move is knight to g5. So now we're simply going to go through two different moves, and then we're going to move on to a different topic. Either e6, normal development, or h6, kicking the knight away. Let's start with the craziest one, h6. Our opponent is already asking the question to the knight. Why did you come so close to me? Just get away from me. But now white plays knight to e6. Haha. There's an attack on the queen, and the pawn can't just take the knight because this is checkmate in the next move. So the queen will have to move. c7 is not accessible. There's only b6 or a5. Okay, b6 is really bad. It's met with knight to d5, and now there's double attack on the c7 square, also an attack on the queen. And after the check, only move, well, bishop to d2 anyway. We are completely winning this game. And in this position, after knight e6, what happens after queen to a5 straight away? Okay, bishop to d2. And now you're already winning. It's already +3 on the engine. Here, our opponent cannot do anything. Can't go to a6 with the queen because knight c7 wins the queen. Can't go to b5. b6 will be met with knight d5, same move as before. And our threat of playing knight to d5 is just too strong. Let's make an example. I mean, the best move here for black would probably be to take the knight. And then now we can take the pawn in d5. And then the black player could take our bishop with the queen, and after taking back, then pawn takes knight, and play the endgame with all of these pieces. But it's still completely winning for white. And here, there's no way to actually save the queen after knight takes d5, which is the best move. Where is the queen going to go? a6, get forked. b6, c7, they're not good. d8 will smother the king and will allow us to play queen h5 checkmate. So the queen has to go to the only available square, which is a4. After queen a4, best move is knight to c7 check. And now, the king can either move this way or this way. They all fail. King d8 actually loses. You don't pick up the rook, you just play knight check. Only move is this one, and then you go. And in this position, after the check, if the king instead goes to f7, bishop to b5, attacks the queen, forces the queen to the only move, which is queen takes pawn. But now we keep developing. Queen to f3 check. Knight f6 is not good because you're also going to take the rook, and I mean, you can take the knight with the pawn. It's recommended to play bishop c3 first. So let's see if our opponent can retain some advantage and save the game. King g6 running to bishop d3. It's terrible. So after king to g8, bishop to c3 is the best move because we have a weak pawn in e5. And now the queen will have to move. Only square that makes sense will be queen h4. Now we win the rook. And that's it. There's nothing else to do. Our knight is not trapped. He's going to get out of there. This rook can't develop. Maybe an idea of queen to g5, putting double attack on e5. Maybe the idea of taking the pawn and then attacking, putting pressure on g2. But this is simply met with castle. You give up the pawn. Doesn't matter. So for example, knight takes. Okay, take. Okay, td1. And now our opponent can't develop to d7 because we got two pieces attacking there. This bishop and this rook can't develop ever. Knight to c6 instead. You've got double attack on it. So let's take it from the start and see something slightly different. e5, knight d7, d4, c5. Knight to g5 straight away. So what happens after e6? This looks more rational. However, queen to h5 comes already, threatening checkmate. So we're going to go through queen e7. g6 is a positional weakness, because now we're going to play queen f3, and this bishop will have created two different dark squares. So there will be a weakness on the dark squares for our opponent. Now queen e7 is forced to come anyway, so there was no reason to play g6. Unless you think about f5, but obviously you're going to play knight takes e6, completely winning move, queen a5, bishop to d2, same thing, absolutely winning. So we're going to go through queen e7, but now simply knight to b5. We're threatening knight c7, we're threatening to go here and make this check and then put triple attack over f7, game over as you can tell. So in this position, instead of g6, what happens after queen a7 already? Okay, knight to b5 comes, and now g6 is not really a transposition because we're going to play queen f3, but now our opponent can play this move, which is knight takes in e5. Taking out a very strong pawn. Now obviously we're going to take back, but now bishop to g7. We got to look at this line to see how to deal with this. Knight d6 check, that's how you do this. King to d7, best move is bishop to b5 check. Knight blocking in c6. And now this knight takes in a7 with an attack on the rook. Rook to f8. We pin our own piece. That's incredible. Castle. As if nothing was happening. Two moves we're going to look at, and then we're going to stop with this crazy line and then move on to the slightly more serious one, but still losing. If black's bishop takes this pawn, obviously we can't take back. But first you take this knight. Pawn takes back. And now knight takes this with check. King takes knight. Queen to g3. And this king can't move anywhere. I mean, he can, but you're going to win the opponent queen no matter what. And in this position, instead of bishop takes pawn here, what happens after simply a6? Let's say attacking our bishop. Okay, take. King takes is not possible because of c4. c4 is just too strong. You're going to take everything. And then the rooks are coming in the game. Most of these files are open. I mean, C and D file are open. So after B takes, bishop to G5 ends the game. So let's make one more recap so that we understand this very well. Okay, C5, knight G5, E6, Queen H5 attacking, Queen E7, knight B5. We're not gonna go through that crazy sacrifice anymore, but rather through knight to a6, which stops us from playing knight to c7. Now you may argue, okay, king d8 stops that too, but like you've got this, right? So the king can't move. Knight a6, knight check, king moves, and here we are again. King c7, bishop g5. That's it, the queen is trapped. So we're gonna win material. I mean, the knight can interpose, but still. After taking the knight, you play bishop f4. I mean, you can literally do whatever you want in this position. It's so amazing. And g6 as a counterattack doesn't work because of queen h4. This is even worse, actually.